So, AI, I know it's the talk of the town now, right? But AI has been around for a while, right? You'd be surprised, maybe not, but, right, it's been around for, 50, 60 years, right? So we've had rule-based systems. You can, create a program which can play chess, not necessarily win it. That was considered artificial intelligence then, right? Then we came about to the autocomplete era, right? So that was so cool. IDEs came in, right? You don't need to know exact syntax. You could go crazy with your typos, and it will fix it with incorrect updates. And then came the machine learning era, right? You got the Siris, the Alexas, right? Hey Google, turn off my alarm, right? So that's the next evolution of the level of intelligence, so to speak, right? The machines started kind of acquiring. Then came the deep learning evolution, right? So we actually got serious. We could do better image recognition, right? You have self-driving cars-ish, right? So the algorithms that do recommendations on social media, they're spot on there, right? And here we are, it's just another step in the evolution. It is the generative AI era, right? So where AI can not just follow what you've given, but it can create OC, right? Original content of its own.
So AI has been around for 50 years now. So why is it suddenly the dragon in the room?
Great question. So I was hoping someone would ask that. Firstly, it is big, right? As you said, it is everywhere, right? So any conversation that you're having, there is some element of AI to it. You go to a testing talks conference, it's AI, right? You go to a DevOps conference, it's AI, right? You go to agriculture conference, it is AI, right? So it is everywhere. So it is as if there is a dragon that is landed in the middle, on the top of Crown Towers, and everyone's talking about it, right? So that's why I think it's a dragon, right? Now, it is powerful. We've been told, we've seen it, right? So, hey, look, it can type up my emails for me, great, right? It can analyze my requirements document, and it can summarize, it can find points for me, right? So it can handle a lot of tedious tasks. So again, like a dragon, it is unpredictable. So it can grow 2 arms suddenly, change colors. It can give you, you can have a perfectly good session going, and then suddenly you find that it's going to do something that you didn't expect it to do, right? And it can be scary, right? Actually, maybe the scary part is from us, right? It's just probably just having a sneeze, but it does, when you have a big, powerful, unpredictable thing, it can appear scary, right? Hold your swords, no need to panic, right? All of this can actually be a good thing, right? If it is big, it is accessible, right? So it is available everywhere. So that means you can touch it, you can feel it, you can put it to use, you can try it, right? I'm sure almost everyone in this room would have spent many attempts to try to bring a new product in, right? Want to try this, all I need is 20% of practice time, let me do it, and we failed, right? But now you just have to use the word AI, or in most cases you're told already, say, hey, look, here's AI, go try it, right? So yes, it is big, but maybe it also means that it becomes more accessible to you. So it's a good thing. It is powerful, but that means it can help you with a lot of the heavy lifting, right? It need not necessarily be a competition to you. There are things we definitely don't enjoy doing, right? So someone gives you a 200-page document, right, on a Friday afternoon and say, hey, look, can you review this and send it to me Monday, 10 a.m., right? So nobody loves that, but you can leverage AI to do some of those kind of tedious tasks, right? I have bad news about the unpredictable thing. I don't think it's the AI. It's not AI, it's you, right? We just need to understand it. That's all it is, right? So let's understand the strengths of it, what the weaknesses are, right? Then we would be able to apply it better. right? And it need not be scary. So finally, we've come to the core of the topic, which is let's learn how to train the AI dragon, how to use AI effectively, right? And then, we are happy together.
And how do we go about doing that then?
So first, we know about the strengths, but let's just make sure that we get a really good handle of the limitations, right? One of the biggest problems with AI is the context problem, right? So yes, it is getting better and better, but still it is nowhere close to human levels of context switching and context management, right? So that's something that we have to be really careful and really be aware of, right? Before we go and engage AI in an activity, we got to make sure that you give it that kind of right kind of context and not expect it to basically move mountains, so to speak, right? AI can be too obedient. You give the AI a picture and say, find the cat in the picture, it would find the cat in the picture, 100%. Right? It need not be there, but it thinks that you know what you're doing, so it's going to say, yeah, okay, here is the cat. So you got to learn, you got to understand that AI is not foolproof. It is going to hallucinate. It is going to please you. So we got to make sure that whatever we are asking it to do, we got to pose the question in the right way, right? So that's something that we got to keep it in our mind all the time. AI is not that great in thinking outside the box. So if we give the system to any of our, people in our testing community here, and you say, can you go test it? One of the first tests they will do is go and push that big button at the middle, right? But you can go and ask an AI and say, hey, look, can you test the system? You'll probably go around testing everything else before it even thinks that maybe I should try that, right? So it is great at you set its lane, you set a clear defined path, clear defined rules, it can do a really wonderful job. But then you got to understand that you can't go and expect it to do a lot of stuff that humans are really good at, right? Like the creative aspects, the empathy, etc. And we'll talk about that. AI is still in grade 1 ethics and bias class, right? So if you had such a process and you asked an AI system to implement it, it would implement it. I don't think it's going to have any problem, right? And I thought this is how it would work because I always had the green path, right, whenever I applied for loan. But apparently I'm told that's not the case. So again, you got to make sure that you are only leveraging AI for the kind of activities that doesn't involve ethical considerations, right? That doesn't involve more emotional concepts, more ethics and empathy and all of those things, right? So now that we kind of know the strengths of AI and the kind of the deficiencies of it, let's define a framework, right? So rules of engagement, so to speak, of how we can go about leveraging AI in our day-to-day activities. First, important decision to be made is when it comes to task selection, right? We need to make sure that we're doing smart task selection, assign tedious, repetitive tasks to the AI, right? There is a huge set of log files that comes in on a daily basis. You want to look at it, you want to just do some pattern analysis to say, hey, can you check if these entries are there? Great, you can get the AI to do it. But do you want it to go and say, look, can you do the sentiment analysis and based on that actually go and raise a complaint in our complaint system, right? And probably, fire off an escalation. You got to be careful about that because the AI is not there yet, right? There is the element of subtlety that the AI hasn't obtained just yet. So you got to be, got to make sure that you can leverage it as much as you want to go through and see. I had an example recently where we were given, right, there's some manual test cases, right, 1,500 manual test cases in an Excel file with a whole lot of steps, right, defined in there. So I thought, I'll just play around with ChatGPT. I said, hey, can you look at this? I'm sure there's, first count the kind of, duplicate steps in there, right? And it did a fairly decent job, right? So it's talking 1,500 test cases. We're talking almost 15,000 rows in that file, and it was able to go through and that too across 100 sheets, right? And it went through. It picked up and it said, look, I think I can see this is a login which is coming in so many places. Here is the kind of ticket booking, variations of it that coming through. Great. So that was something that would have taken me probably weeks to go through diligently and identify. But then I said, okay, great. Now that you identified it, can you parameterize it and give me just a set of reusable actions? And it boiled it all down to 12 functions, so to speak. That's it. 1,500 test cases. It said you can boil it all down to 12 functions, and you go and look at it, and you can see that it has taken so many creative liberties that it's practically unusable, right? So the idea is that you can leverage it for certain tedious tasks, but when it comes to anything creative, so humans still are the king. So that means anything that you are going to be implementing using AI must be human-led, AI augmented, right? So it needs to have human in the loop. I'm sure you've heard of that already. There may be other talks that have referred to it, but this is a very, very critical aspect, and we can't stress enough, right? I know there's a lot of talk about autonomous this, autonomous that. We're not there yet, right? So we need to make sure that you have specific points in any AI workflow that you have where you can pause, you can have a look at as a human, you can review it, you can edit it, you can give some alternate suggestions or something to that effect, and that is very critical, right? So I know there's an urge to automate everything. There's an urge to say, hey, look, end to end, I just go click a button here and magically it's all done. That is going to inevitably cause you big problems in the future. The next one is having appropriate guardrails, right? You can trust the AI to do certain activities. You've trained it, you have tested it out, but still you got to have, as part of the human in the loop, ability to verify the outputs, right? So maybe next year I may come around and I may say, hey, look, yes, it's ready for certain activities. You can just trust it completely. But at this point in where we are, we definitely need to make sure that we are verifying whatever it is that is coming out of the any kind of AI process that you have, right? Track it or trash it. You need to have an audit trail of any process, any output that is coming out of that is influenced by AI, right? We've all seen tiny bit of prompt differences, tiny bit of context differences can give very varied results, right? So if someone just hands over a file and say, hey, look, I just got this done by AI and here it is not good enough. You need to have an audit trail established to make sure that the right inputs have gone in, the right prompts and the right rules are being applied so that you are sure that this is an appropriate usable output, right? And the third one is still keep your car, right? There are going to be issues. There are going to be cases where your AI assisted, AI augmented system is not going to work, right? That could be a security issue that's come in and you got to pull the plug, right? So, or you got to pause it until you fix it, right? There's a new model that's coming in and it's giving unpredictable results. So always have a backup plan. Right. So right, it's kind of the human-in-the-loop model is any output that comes out of an AI process should be in a way that a human can pick it up and then progress it, right? So that's something that's very important. So you've got to make sure that you keep your car still. Yeah, we're not flying around dragons 100% anytime soon. And this is the most important one is adapting your mindset. This is what most of our day-to-day activities are like, right? We spend a lot of time building stuff, right? Designing stuff, right? Doing things. But where we need to get to is we need to do less do, we need to do more review and refine. So this is fundamentally a very different paradigm where we need to make sure that we are organizing your tasks in such a way that you can leverage AI to do more, but you are spending more time reviewing what's coming, you are refining it, you're redirecting it, right? So that is a very, very important mindset change that we need to do. So we need to effectively kind of almost train for it day to day, right? So you can set yourself a target to say, hey, look, every day I'm going to try, if that's your organization policy, right, to say, I want to use the AI process for at least 3 or 4 times a day, let's say, right? And you make a habit out of it, right? So you kind of get used to writing it, get used to working alongside it, and try, doing more on the review and refining part. So, for the theory, let's just see some of these rules in action, right?
Of course, AI can help us in so many things, right? So one of the things that AI can help us is self-healing. So obviously, all of our applications are changing constantly, especially in this age of AI. There are a lot of changes in the application. So here we have a real-world example, right? So we've taken a really old version of a flight booking website from Web Archive, and we built a test scenario on that web application. So we are searching for some departing city and arriving city, and we are searching for all the flights with that search result. Right? So this just was built on a really old version of application, and we've taken the latest version of the same application here. Right? So you can see the entire application is revamped, right? So it's rebuilt completely, and all the fields have changed. And we are trying to re-execute the same test scenario in the new version of the application. Here, with minimal effort, right, so AI can self-heal. When it's executing, you can see the fields have changed. It has changed from departure city to depart now, and AI has identified that and self-healed. And the next field as well, right, so you can see the field label has changed from arrival city to arrive, and AI has identified that and continued to run the test as well. And it's not just on label changes, right? So even when the entire field has changed, right? So you can see in this place, right? So the field has changed from a drop down to a radio button now, and AI can identify that and self-heal. So this way, with minimal human effort, right? So AI can identify and self-heal and continue to execute the tests across different versions of applications, even when there are changes.
So let's look at the rules that we talked about, right? So self-healing is a tedious task, so you may actually have, so for this example, we pick one test, but ultimately you may have thousands of tests that need to be refactored, right? So going in and fixing it is a tedious task, maintenance is always a problem, so AI can help significantly, right? But then you would notice that when self-healing is applied in this mode, it gives you the option to say, I think this is what it is, do you want to accept it? Right? Or if you don't think that is the right thing, then you can take an alternate, kind of a tact, right? So that is important here because you don't want your defects to be automatically, magically healed, right? So, and the context given, again, is a very limited context, which is one application, one particular test, so that's all we are trying to get it to heal, right? So, that's how we've applied those rules here.
AI can also help with visual testing. So generally with applications, when we perform visual testing on applications, the test generally fails when there are minor changes like changes in resolution of the browser, or if there are pixel changes, the test starts failing with visual testing. To accommodate this, we'll have to have more technical skills or a software specifically designed to ignore all these pixel-related changes and resolution changes, etc. Right? So to overcome all of this, with AI's help, right, so it can actually look at the application just like how a human would perform visual testing on the application, rather than relying on the technical aspects of the application itself. AI would look at it just like how a human would look at the application. So AI can help with visual testing in this way. So AI can also help with LLM testing as well. Right? So there are a lot of applications with chatbots and more AI coming into applications. To test these AIs, we have to rely on the AI to test AI. We are testing the chat agent, the chatbot here. So you're just asking ChatGPT to explain the principles of fluid mechanics here. So ChatGPT has given us a response. And we have taken the response and we are asking our autopilot to analyze the response. Right? So we are looking at the answer relevancy, right? So how relevant and how accurate the answer is. And autopilot has given it 0.8 out of 1. Right? So it is also giving some reasoning around why it has given that score. We can also test different metrics, right? So you can see we are checking the faithfulness here as well. It's given it 1 out of 1 on the faithfulness. Just like that, you can test different metrics, right? So role adherence, or you can check conversation relevancy. We can test for bias, toxicity, different hallucinations, summarization, right? So you can test that LLM or the AI model using these different metrics as well. And it's not just for chatbots, right? So we can also use this autopilot or the AI to test other AI agents. So we've taken a flight AI agent here to book we're asking it to book a morning flight, non-stop flight, one way from Dallas to Chicago next week in American Airways. And it has generated some response. And in that response, it's also giving us some link with all the test results there. So now we are taking that link, we are opening that link, and we want to validate the test results there. So when the link is launched, we are loading that link, right? So we are getting the results from there. We are validating that the from city is Texas, Dallas, Texas, and the flight to is Chicago, as provided in the prompt. We are validating the date there. And the flight list, the search result contains is all American Airways, right? And we are validating all of the results matches the prompt that we've given. So this is how you can also use AI to test other AI agents and chatbots. We can also use AI to generate synthetic test data as well. Right? So you may want to use seed test data that can be used in your test environments. Right? So you can use the autopilot or any AI to generate synthetic test data. You can just provide some sample test data from your production, or it can be any representative sample test data. Right? So you can provide it as a sample file here. Right? So you can upload the test data. And from there, you can also choose what kind of output format you want, right? And the total number of records that you want to be generated as output. The AI can analyze the input file based on the sample data that you provided, and it can generate those, the relevant outputs there. So after analyzing, you can see it has identified all the different fields that are available in the input file, right? And it can also identify all the field requirements, right? So if there are any rules and requirements around it, right? So it has identified there is a patient field in the file, and the patient field is alphanumeric, which starts with P, and there are some numbers after it. It has identified that the first name is it's a text field and contains 1 to 50 characters. The zip code should be numeric value with a 5-digit number in there. And there are different tiers in the insurance tier, and we can choose different tier values there. Right? So it has identified all of those different requirements around it, and it's customizable as well. Right? So from there, you can change those ranges, change the requirements, or any other test data that you want in there. You can also add different patterns as well. Right? So what kind of test data that you want generated. If you want more data created with patient data with high cholesterol, or patient age falling between 15 to 60, you can provide those patterns as well, and you can let AI generate those test data for you. And once the data is generated, you can use it accordingly, right? So you can use it in different places.
So again, you can see the human in the loop in play here, right? It's quite easy to just go, here is the data, go record, go get 1,000 records and seed your environment. But what we've done here is we ensure that we provide that intermediate step, right? So not only are these fields, these are the characteristics. Maybe it has picked up something wrong, or maybe you actually know that, hey, look, the insurance tier, the sample I gave only had 4 tiers, but I know there's 5 tier. right? So you can go and update it, right? So when it comes to pattern analysis, you may have specific needs. You may want to go and say, in this particular instance, this is the type of spread of data you want. So it is important to get that, the human in the loop to review what it's going to do, right? And, guide it accordingly.
So AI can also help with test case generation as well. So that's the total buzzword now, right? So just by providing a text-based prompt, the AI can generate the entire test case for you, all the test steps. So what we are doing here is, all we've done is just provided a one-line prompt to say, create a new invoice on the Oracle application. Right? So just based on that prompt provided, it has created the entire test script. Right? So it has identified all the fields in the form, navigated to the invoice screen, and it has filled in all of the fields available in the form and created a new invoice. That's it, right? So this way, the tedious task of creating those 40 different steps is taken care of by AI. But as an end user, we are still keeping the human in the loop, right? So once the test script is created, you can always review it if you would like to update any test steps, right? So if you want to change different values, or if you want to parameterize and pass in different set of test data, you can always review it and make further changes to the test script.
And, sorry. Yeah. And always, right, so you're running large set of tests and analyzing the results, identifying possible defects, etc., is a tedious process. AI can be really good at it as long as you organize it in the right way, right? So rather than just say, hey, look, figure out everything, you can give some guidelines. So what we're doing here is we've given some guidelines to say, look at the tests, and we want you to categorize it into two high-level kind of types, technical and application. So application could mean potential defects. Technical could mean potentially things you need to update in your tests, right? Then you can also guide it to say, hey, look, what are the different subcategories, right? So if you have a technical one and it's because of a locator issue, right, or a timeout issue or something like that, right? Or if you have an application error, it can give you some indication on, it is an API failure or the behavior doesn't match what you're expecting, right? So again, it's quite easy for it to go to the next step and say, go and create defects. You will see on the right there is the option to go and create defects in there. But by keeping the human in the loop in making sure that you are eyeballing what it's categorizing, maybe it's got it right, maybe there are things that you need to fix there, you can go and update it. Right, so that's another kind of implementation decision made. Right, so what we want to stress is always make sure that we are including human in the loop to provide that ability to refine, right, review, and update as it goes. Cool. I think that's probably about it. Hopefully you got some interesting tips about how to train AI dragons. We'll be right outside the booth. If you have any more questions, I'm sure we can take some questions now as well. Yeah.
Q&A time.
Thank you. The first thing that I was maybe very curious about was about the human in the loop, right? So on one side, we keep saying that the speed to delivery is going to increase, QA time is going to reduce because AI is coming into play. On the other hand, we are overloading the human in the loop to review so much, because if you cross-compare this with wipe coding, the problem there too is similar, that AI loves to type, right? So it types lines, humongous lines of code, right? So how exactly are we reducing the time when we are saying that we are still dependent on the human in the loop, rather?
Great question. So there are teething problems, and now it comes to, it's no one size fits all. There are, based on how you're implementing it, right, based on what you are trying to solve, right? And I completely empathize with you, because like last week I was talking to one of our dev leads, right? And so we use AI in our in-house development heavily, right? And I was just talking to him and I said, hey, look, with all of this AI, right, your job should be much easier now, right? And he actually said, you know what, it's actually much harder now, right? And the reason was, he said, look, earlier I could, make some tasks, send my junior devs away. They'll take probably, a day, two. They'll come back with a pull request, and then I can review it, and then we go on, right? Now, I tell them something, within an hour there is a pull request ready for me to review, right? And if I just gone, okay, I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now the first one's here for review, so I'm spending, the next 15, 20 minutes reviewing it, right? So there are certain cases where, yes, it is overloading the human in the loop, but there are cases where, if you take the example of some of the examples we showed, right? So, see, data synthesis is a classic example where if you had to go and take that one sample kind of file with 20 fields with a whole lot of business rules in there, if you had to analyze it, you had to come up with it, right? The tedious part of it is the analysis, right? And if you're able to use AI for that part, right? But then, so you would have done the review anyway, regardless, right? In this case, the AI is actually taking over a tedious task and not so much an easier for human to do task, right? So it is about identifying those longer links in the chain, right? And trying to bring AI into those chains rather than trying to, automate everything, right? So that was one of the things I was mentioning before, is because there is going to be added audit trails that has to come in when you're using AI, right? In an organizational level. So there are going to be additional overheads due to this. But then there's definitely gains to be made, right? So like some of the decisions again is, if I know there's a trend of, I'm going to, like if you take testing itself, right? I'm going to get AI to generate test cases, but then the tests generated are code, right? Now, if it is code, unless you're a skilled developer who can just eyeball the code, you can review the code and make sure that the code is right, you're getting, by getting AI to generate your automated code, you're actually making it harder and worse for you. Right. So in this instance, what it is doing is it is generating that English language, and it's already there's 2 layers of abstraction available. So you can look at it and say, does it say enter Sydney in the departure field? That is easier to review and confirm, rather than it's a 5-line code which is harder to review. Right. So it is about getting some kind of abstraction layers in between as well to prepare it to be easier to review. But the human in the loop is going to be critical.
Any other question?
Hey there. So I guess one of the key things is about how you train your dragon, right? So with a dog, if it's naughty, you go, you're bad, you punish it, then you teach it. How do you do the same thing with AI? If it gives you bad metrics and stuff like that, how do you go, you've done wrong, now fix yourself?
Well, I mean, it's a dragon, but still, I'm from India, obviously, right? If you go to some of the Indian temples, you have these large elephants at the front of the temple, right? You would see that they're tied to a pillar by a thin piece of rope. Now, you know that it is very easy for the elephant, if it wants to just, rip that up and get away, right? But you would see that they're completely docile. They think that rope is not removable, right? So the AI is a bit like that, right? So as long as it is not actually making, that's where we say human in the loop, right? If I actually said, here is the production data, now go, generate 10,000 records, put it in my test environment, now progress it to my non-prod, right? And run some tests, and once the tests are done, automatically say deploy to production, tick, done. If you do that, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? In that case, you have a very naughty dog, which even if you have other techniques, it's still going to come back to bite you, right? So it's about putting in those controls, those guardrails, very, very clearly up front, ensuring that you define the context around which it's going to work.
Thank you.
Nice. Who's that?
Yep, last question, please.
Thanks for the talk. Okay, so I have a question regarding to if we have a senior developer and also we have a senior QE, they come here to train the Dragon. So who will get the Dragon trained faster?
It depends on the dragons and depends on what you're going to get the dragons to do, right? Ultimately, say the application is if you want to train the dragon in a quality engineering space where you want to say a lot of stuff that we've done is more we brought in the testing knowledge, right? We know the traditional how do you test it, what do you test, right? How do you apply it? And we've used the AI to do the more general parts where we know that, hey, look, I want to test this application. That means there are actions I need to do. There are verification points I need to have. This is how an application generally goes, flows through to the next step. And this is the kind of reports I need to produce, things like that, right? And once you bring that in and you go to an AI platform and say, hey, now that under this context, can you look at this and tell me what is the test I can build? Right. So I heard somewhere before, right? Someone was saying that they're very disappointed with the test that AI is generating. Right. I completely agree. Right. And the point is that maybe we're asking the wrong question. So if we just generally go, and I know there's a lot of hype in the market where you can just give I love it when someone says, hey, look, I have Jira stories. Can you just generate all the test cases for it, right? A Jira story will only say, in your login screen, now add a checkbox saying, I accept terms and conditions. But it has no broader contextual information, right? So if you just have, if that is the only context you're going to give it and say, hey, here is a login screen, this, go automate it, that test is completely useless. It is going to be disappointing. Right? But if you have an approach where, so what we've taken is we have this concept of an application hub where we teach it about the application. And then whenever you're going to create a new test, you go to say, for this application, this is the Jira story. Now it knows that, okay, I know that these are all the things that happens in the application, and this is that one part of that application that's changing. So this is the kind of tests I need to build, right? So yes, if it's going to be more testing related, it would be better off coming from someone with the QA experience, because what we need more is mindset, more that review capability and refinement capability rather than the actual doing capability. Hope that makes sense, yeah?
Yep. Again, apologies for the short time for Q&A. As we are approaching towards another break, before that one, a sleep check.
Oh, okay.
So now it's a time for Sriram and Yurani to ask the question. So go for it.
You have a question? Chase, I've prepared for this for a lot. I didn't think about this part. Okay, I'll do this. So do you agree that the AI is a dragon or a dog? Sorry? Or I'll take that answer. Thank you.
Thank you once again to Sriram and Yurani for the great presentation. Again, one more reminder, please, postcard game, don't forget about it. There are plenty of prizes at the end, and stay there till the end. If you stay here, you'll get big prizes, 100% sure. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.